You've got an 8-figure liquidity event on the horizon. There's one advisor role that changes everything. And here's the thing, 9 out of 10 people facing a liquidity event don't have it. A year after your liquidity event, you're going to wake up in one of two positions. Position one, you've got a pile of money, but you're stressed and you don't really feel fulfilled in what you're doing. Your plan doesn't feel like it's in alignment with your ideal vision for your life or your values or what you want for your family. You hired highly qualified advisors, but it feels like they're all working against each other and pulling you in different directions. Something just feels off and it's hard to really put your finger on it. Now, position two, you wake up with that same pile of money, but things feel good. Your financial plan really is working like a well-oiled machine. You feel fulfilled in what you're doing. You're not stressed about money by any means. All your advisors are rowing in the same direction and everything's good there. You know exactly what your legacy looks like, what you're going to do while you're alive, and what's going to happen when you're gone. Now, what's the difference between those two positions? It's one role. That role is the certified exit planning advisor. I'm Jake Hughes. I am a certified exit planning advisor, and I'm a liquidity event planning expert with Blueprint Financial Group. We've built our firm around helping families that are facing large liquidity events, likely the largest financial transaction they'll have in their lives, navigate that with clarity and confidence. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that vital role is, why it matters more than any other seat at your table, and I'm going to walk you through two real scenarios, one without the role and one with it, so that you can not only see, but also feel the difference for yourself. So what is a certified exit planning advisor and what do they actually do? Well, first of all, it's someone who has completed intensive coursework through the Exit Planning Institute and passed a fancy exam to get to utilize the official designation. By the way, I'm not going to keep saying over and over Certified Exit Planning Advisor. I'm going to shorten it to CEPA. Now, what does this role mean for you as you go through your liquidity event? The CEPA is the one person who does three things, all critical for a successful liquidity event and life afterward. Number one, the CEPA is going to dig deep and help you and your family get crystal clear on what actually matters to you, your values, your mission, your vision for your future, not just what looks good on a spreadsheet, what you actually care about. How do you want your kids to experience this wealth? Any worries on that front? What role is generosity going to play with your wealth and in your family? What organizations or causes are out there that light you up and give you energy? What does your life look like after this event? Not just financially, but personally and professionally. Who are you when you're no longer the founder or the VP or the guy or gal that builds companies? Number two, they coordinate every other professional that's going to be involved in your liquidity event around that vision we created in number one. Your personal CPA, your business CPA, your personal attorney, your business attorney, your estate attorney, your M&A advisor, your insurance professionals, your lenders, your real estate professionals. There's going to be a lot of people involved. And look, they're all going to be brilliant at what they do. But without someone in the center advocating for your family's values and your vision, they're each going to be optimizing for their own piece of the puzzle. And those pieces are likely not going to fit together. So number two, they're going to coordinate professionals around your vision. Number three, look, this one is a lot more impactful and important than most people realize. The coordination is going to save you an enormous amount of the three things that none of us can ever get back. What are they? Number one, your time. Number two, your attention. Number three, your sanity. Without a CEPA, guess who's the one that's fielding every call, every email, every question, every redundant question from 5 to 8 to 10 different professionals. You guessed it, you are. That's 10 to 20 hours a week on top of continuing to run your business or lead your company. And when your focus splits like that right before a major transaction, your business can suffer. Your performance might dip. And if your performance dips, maybe we lose a big client. Now all of a sudden our valuation's at risk. The CEPA takes that off your plate almost entirely so you can be focused on what you do best. Okay, to recap, 3 things. Number 1, the CEPA is going to know you better, and they're going to help you create clarity around what matters most. Number 2, they're going to coordinate your numerous advisors around that vision, and they are going to be completely unrelenting in doing that. Number 3, they're going to be the hub. Through coordination, they're going to save you time, attention, sanity. They sit in the seat closest to you. They know your family better than any other professional in your life and more than most people in your life, really. They're going to make sure every strategy, every structure, every decision is aligned with what you and your family actually want. Not just what's tax optimal or spreadsheet optimal. What's right for you. Now, let me show you what this looks like and feels like in real life. Next, I'm going to walk you through 2 drastically different scenarios. And I promise the second one will change how you think about your liquidity event entirely. Now, our 2 scenarios are 2 real life examples. First, we're going to start with the cautionary tale. What can happen without a CEPA involved? Let me tell you a story about someone that we'll call David. Details have changed, but the story's real. David co-founded a software company. 10 years into it, private equity came knocking on the door and offered $40 million. So he hired good people, an estate attorney, tax strategist, M&A advisor, et cetera, et cetera. They did solid work. Trusts, donor advised fund, capital gains optimization. David ended up walking away with roughly $31 million after taxes. Pretty good. But really, what we have to do is look under the hood. And this is the part that nobody thinks about or talks about. First, the time. David was the one fielding every call, every email, every question from 5 different advisors. The tax guy needed some documents. The estate planning attorneys had questions. The M&A advisor needed approvals. David was spending 15 plus hours a week just coordinating on top of running his business. His focus started to fragment. And in the final months before close, company performance started to slip a little bit. They actually lost one of their bigger clients. When your business dips right before a transaction, that's not just stress. That's valuation risk and real money. Then came the alignment issues after the deal was done. His wife, we'll call her Lauren, started asking questions that she hadn't been a part of answering. I'm married. I don't want to be in that situation. That is not a good situation to be in. I've been in it. Things like, why is $10 million locked up in investments that I've never heard of? And apparently we can't even get to the money very easily. How much of our money is locked up in a trust that we can't use till we die? Why was such a small amount of money set aside for charity when that was a big deal to us, I thought? Why are we so limited in who we can even support? Then David eventually realized that some of the tax strategies that were implemented were not something that he would have chosen to move forward with if someone had actually walked him through the real trade-offs and risks associated with those strategies and how they might not actually align with his values. And then there was the identity piece. David had spent 14 years of his life building the company. Really, it was who he was. And now that was gone. He had $31 million in the bank, but now he's feeling kind of lost. Not one of the 7 advisors had ever asked him, David, who are you after this? Like, what are you going to do after this? How are you going to spend your time? What do you want life to look like for you and your family? So, the financial moves, they were genuinely savvy and certainly sophisticated, but nobody sat in the center. Nobody coordinated it all around the family's vision. And ultimately, David and his family paid the price, not just in that misalignment, but in stress, in headache, in focus, in time that'll never get back. Not a fun situation by any means. Okay, now here's where it gets good, because what I'm about to show you is the exact opposite experience. Let's get into that. This is the blueprint approach. We're going to walk through what it looks like and feels like to go through that liquidity event with a CEPA involved. Now we meet Sarah. She's the VP of product at a late stage fintech company. 25 million bucks invested equity. She's been there from the beginning. An IPO is now on the horizon. She comes to Blueprint 18 months before the potential IPO. Where do we start? Well, we certainly didn't start with talking about taxes or trusts or anything like that. We didn't open up a single spreadsheet for multiple meetings. What we did do is we dug deep. We sat down with Sarah and her husband, Matt. And at first, we just asked them questions. What does your family value most? What role is generosity going to play for you? How do you want your kids to experience this wealth? What values do you want to transfer through to them around wealth? And just in general. What are you afraid of losing? Not financially, but personally and professionally when you end up leaving the company. We dug in deep with them. What came out of that shaped everything. We figured out that Sarah and Matt actually had different assumptions about what all the wealth was going to be used for. They both cared deeply about generosity, but they had never really talked about, to what level or in what form, or who do we want to actually support? Matt figured that they'd just stay put in the Bay Area. They had friends here. But Sarah was quietly hoping that they might move back to Colorado to be closer to family, or at least that they would buy a nice place in the mountains to go visit really often. When Sarah decided to get vulnerable and honest, she told us that she was actually pretty terrified of losing her identity, but she didn't really know how to voice that before we had talked. None of that shows up on a balance sheet or a P&L, but it all shapes the plan. Once we had that foundation, then it was time to make their vision a reality. First, we got every professional that they needed into the boat. Then we coordinated all of them around their values and their vision. The Dynasty Trust that was set up was structured to reflect how they wanted wealth to flow to their kids and grandkids and charities. Not just tax optimally, but values optimally. The charitable strategy was built around causes they'd identified together. The creative tax planning matched their actual appetite for risk. No surprises, nothing that would keep Matt up at night. And we also helped Sarah map out what was next. She ended up afterward joining 2 nonprofit boards and started advising startups. We even helped to get her introduced to one of the nonprofits that she's working with, which was really cool. Here's the part that made all the difference in the day-to-day. Sarah or Matt weren't fielding calls from 5 different advisors. They weren't answering the same questions 3 times. They weren't spending 15 hours a week coordinating everybody, directing the orchestra. We were, as the CEPA. She was provided summarized updates to make sure she was fully kept in the loop, but could go through it quickly. We were clear and concise when we needed her and Matt for a decision, and we lumped multiple questions and decisions into one call. Her focus stayed on the business right through the IPO. No performance dip, no valuation risk. She stayed locked in on what she does best, and we handled the rest on her behalf. 6 months later, after the liquidity event and everything was done, Sarah, we're talking to her and she told us something really cool. She said, "You were the first person that I called when we found out Matt's mom was sick. Not our tax guy, not our estate attorney, you, because you know us. That meant a lot to us. The other thing to hit on is the financial outcome was exceptional too. Check out our other videos. We know all the cool creative tax moves. We know how to allocate the investments. We know all the different trust structures. We saved roughly, I think it was like $8 million in taxes through the techniques and strategies we implemented alongside our other advisors. Big impact there. But ask Sarah and Matt what mattered most to them. What they'll tell you is it was the alignment. It was the peace of mind. It was the fact that they knew they had someone in their corner advocating for their family through every decision along the way. So now I'm hoping you're thinking, hey, scenario 2 sounds great, but what does this actually look like in practice? Let me break that down for you next. Next, we're going to talk through what we call the blueprint framework. This is what the process actually looks like when engaging a CEPA. There's 3 phases to this, to keep it simple. The earlier you start, the more powerful each phase can be. Phase 1, discovery, and then early stage planning. This happens ideally at a minimum 18 months before the liquidity event. But again, the earlier, the better. This is where we dig deep. We sit down with you and your spouse. We map out in detail your family's values, vision, and mission. We get to know you, not just your balance sheet, but who you are, what keeps you up at night, what excites you about what's next, what you're afraid of losing. Then, right after we have that clarity, we start the financial architecture. Maybe we're transferring interests into trusts while that 409A valuation is low. Because in tax planning, lower valuations mean bigger opportunities. We're going to choose the right jurisdiction for a trust. Maybe it's South Dakota, Texas, Delaware, different reasons for different places. We're deciding on trust structure, grantor, non-grantor. That's all about flexibility. We're implementing tax strategies now to help offset the future gain. Maybe it's direct indexing or long short strategies paired with tax loss harvesting. But we're going to make sure that your estate and tax plan first reflect what you actually want, not just what's tax optimal. And critically, this is where we begin to assemble and coordinate your advisory team. We identify every professional that you're going to need: estate attorneys, tax strategists, M&A advisors, insurance professionals, real estate advisors, lenders. We get everybody into the boat and we get them all rowing in the same direction. Your direction, your family's direction. Stay here with me, because phase 2 is where we see families either really pull ahead or fall behind. Phase 2, pre-transaction planning. All right, now the deal's really on the horizon. Maybe the LOI is signed, maybe the SIM's been drafted, maybe the IPO is formally announced, whatever it is. This is where coordination becomes everything. Maybe we're working with your M&A advisor on deal structure, or now we're working with your tax strategist on capital gains mitigation, because we know what it's going to be now. Donor advised funds, charitable remainder trusts, qualified opportunity zones, installment sales, direct indexing, tax loss harvesting. We're working with your estate attorney to optimize trust structure for the actual transaction terms now that they're even more clear. And through it all, again, we're advocating for your family, making sure that the tax strategy matches risk tolerance, not just what generates the biggest tax savings. Making sure your spouse is informed, involved, and comfortable with every major decision. That one might be at the top of the list. I don't know. We're making sure that the charitable plan reflects what you both truly care about. Making sure nothing falls through the cracks between all these different advisors. Phase 3, post-liquidity planning. The deal closes, the wire hits, the options are exercised, the stock's sold, whatever it is. Now the question becomes, how do we steward this wealth to serve the life you actually want? This is the fun part. This is what we've worked hard for. At Blueprint, we take a bucketed approach to the actual management of the wealth. 3 buckets to keep things simple. Bucket 1 is the liquidity bucket. It's the flexibility bucket. Enough cash for 2 to 3 years of living expenses and any major planned expenses on the horizon. Could be the beach house or the mountain house, family trip to Italy, home renovation, whatever. That's bucket one, liquidity. Bucket two, income, stable, predictable cash flow to replace or supplement your earned income. This should feel like what you're accustomed to. Money coming in every month. We spend that money, more money comes in next month. That's how it's been for 40 years. Let's recreate that. Feels good. So that's bucket two, the income bucket. Bucket three, growth. Long-term, tax-efficient, growth-oriented, well-diversified investments designed to serve you while you're alive and to build generational wealth. 3 buckets: liquidity, income, growth. Simple enough. It's powerful as well. Here's the key though. Again, those buckets are designed around your values and your vision. How much goes into the growth bucket versus the income bucket completely depends on what you told us matters most and the life that you want to live. How much is allocated to charitable giving depends on the vision that you and your spouse created together. How aggressive is this growth bucket? Well, that depends on your comfort level, not just what looks best in some simulation. Then we stay in that CEPA seat for the long haul. We don't go anywhere. We stick with you. We're doing tax loss harvesting and rebalancing. We're coordinating with your estate attorney to keep your estate plan optimal as estate laws change. Your CPA to navigate ever-changing tax laws. We're helping you work through what's next, professionally and personally. We're helping you with big purchases along the way, checking in on how the next chapter's going, just being there for you to navigate all this. We don't disappear after the deal closes because the plan doesn't end when the money arrives. That's really where it begins. Okay, if you've made it this far, you're already thinking differently than 90% of people that are approaching a liquidity event like this. And here's what I want you to take away from this video. Number one, before you think about tax strategy, think about your family. As simple as that is. What are your values? What's your vision for this wealth? What does success really look like? Not just financially, but for your relationships, your identity, your legacy. That foundation changes every decision that comes after it. Number two, you're going to need a lot of smart professionals around you, but someone has to be in the center as your advocate, the person who knows your family deeply enough to coordinate everyone else around what matters most to you. And number three, the families that thrive after a liquidity event aren't just the ones that save the most in taxes. They're the ones who were aligned as a couple, as a family. Before the money ever hit the account, they had someone sitting in that center seat, advocating for their values, making sure everything and everyone was pointed in the same direction. At Blueprint Financial Group, that's exactly what we do. We are liquidity event planning experts. That certified exit planning advisor designation that I talked about, the CEPA, we have 11 of them in our firm and counting. We know all the cool tax strategies. We know the estate structuring. We know how to coordinate every professional involved. But again, the real value, the thing that actually changes your life is that we know you. We sit in the seat closest to your family. We dig deep into what matters most, and we advocate for that vision through every phase, before the deal, during the deal, and for years and generations afterward. If you're facing an 8-figure liquidity event and you want to make sure you have the right person, the right team in that CEPA seat, we'd love to have a conversation. We offer a liquidity event discovery session at our own cost for families with 10 million or more in pending liquidity. No pitch, no pressure. Promise you that. Just a real conversation about what's ahead, what matters to you, and how to approach it with confidence and clarity. The link to schedule that conversation's down in the description. If this video resonated for you, please subscribe and like it. We'll be publishing videos like this regularly. Deep dives certainly into strategies, but also the human side of these big liquidity events. I'm Jake Hughes with Blueprint Financial Group. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.